Hey guys, welcome to our channel. And how we're doing the intro. This is CB4S. I'm Sherry and I am with co-host, very equivalent co-host Megan. And we wanted to talk to you guys about starting a business in 2023, but I wanted to let Megan give some backstory and why we're doing this. Why we joined.
So we work with a lot of bookkeepers, either just starting their business and stuff like that. So we get asked all the time, like, what all do you need? What do you have to start your business? And stuff like that. And for me, we have 15 coaches with CB4S. So everybody's starting their business looks kind of different. For me, I'm a single mom, so I had to do everything cheapest, freest way possible in the beginning, just to kind of make sure that I didn't have the extra money to spend on all these things and stuff. So so even starting, all I had was a tablet to make my Facebook page to kind of market, sign up for QuickBooks Online, all these different things I did from there to start with, because that's all I had. And then once I started marketing and got a client, when I got my first cleanup job, I went on Facebook Marketplace and found somebody who was selling a computer for really cheap, bought it and used that for a while until it stopped working and had to buy a new one. But so free ways, cheap ways, and then even some people wait to set up, but some people stress about setting up their LLC, and some states it costs a lot to do. That's not something that has to be done right away. Insurance, I waited until I had my first client to do that. What else? I know I'm leaving out a lot, Sherry.
Oh, for sure. So first question, I think it's amazing that you didn't let these things stop you. You did it from your tablet. What type of tablet did you have? Did you have a Surface? Was it an Apple tablet? What type of tablet?
Oh no, yeah, super cheap from Amazon, something. I don't even remember exactly what it was, but yeah, something super cheap that was just I had bought it for Kaylee at one time for her to watch movies or something on. It wasn't even but you could access the internet from it.
So you
I just got on a browser.
And you coded. Did you do the cleanup on the tablet too?
Yeah, in the beginning, I started it on there. Yeah. Yep.
So sitting from your couch on the tablet, probably watching a show, doing bookkeeping.
Yep.
With no bookkeeping experience.
Exactly. Yeah. So, none whatsoever.
Let's dive into that. I want to walk through, I want to see, feel, touch what you did. So what gave you the idea I can do this? So you needed to. What prompted you? I can do bookkeeping. What made you that was a thing that you could even get?
So I was kind of looking for stuff that I could do at home. Because I had a kid, my daughter, I'm a single mom. I was already working full time. I needed extra money. I wanted to be able to spend more time with her. And then, so I was in a bunch of mom groups and stuff like that. And somebody in there posted looking for a job, something they could do virtually or whatever. And that's when bookkeeping got brought up, and somebody who had created a course or in the process of creating a course had commented, and I'm like, okay, let's check this out. And kind of see, because yeah, it was something, and that was one of the things, hey, you can learn how to do bookkeeping, you can work for yourself, you can work the hours you want. So all that made it really appealing to me, pretty much.
Okay, so now you have someone who is building out a course or something that's going to teach you how to do bookkeeping. So you had that resource, you got a tablet, and you started just posting on Facebook, hey, I'm a bookkeeper who needs bookkeeping?
Yeah, pretty much. So after I did the course, I kind of freaked out for a little while and was like, there's no way I can do this. Watching the course, I don't even understand what some of this stuff means and whatnot. and then I go to like I purchased that course the beginning of May in 2019, I think. And then Mother's Day, I go to a thing for my daughter for baton, and all the other moms and the coach are like, "You're not her mom. What are you doing?" Because it's this big, hey, like we're doing an introduction. It's the end of the year thing. Moms, you're not her mom. What are you doing here? And like that really hit me hard and was like, okay, I've got to do something and I've got to change this, because they were seeing my best friend who, like, I don't know what I would have done without them bringing her to practice and stuff like that. But I would literally be showing up at the end of practice, picking her up. And like, that's all the only time they ever saw me, you know? So they just thought, hey, that's her parents. So yeah, like that really hit me hard that like, hey, something's got to change because I need to be there for her and not, you're not her mom, you know?
Oh, how heartbreaking. Like,
Yeah, it was.
I might put myself to sleep that night. Like,
Yeah, it was. Yeah. And that, I mean, that moment stayed with me for a long time. I mean, I remember even so posting on Facebook, I didn't know what it meant to even be a bookkeeper or anything. So I start posting on Facebook, offering bookkeeping, all this. Somebody reaches out to me and wants to meet in person because this is pre-COVID. So everybody wants everything in person still. And so I'm like, yeah, sure. And I'm in coffee shop parking lot, like about to throw up because I'm so nervous, like I can't do this. But that moment replays in my head and I'm like, okay, if I'm ever going to change this, I've got to walk through that door and try to make this happen. And I did, and that person signed as a client. So it's kind of like we always say, you have to have like your why's got to be strong enough to push past anything. And mine was, you know, you got to keep reminding yourself of, I'm gonna cry now.
that's a huge one, right? Like,
yeah.
But and I think that goes to show, because I teared up for you, or with you, because like, and we hear that story all the time, right? Like, because even I have a 4-year-old, a 3-year-old, and an 18-month-old, and like,
Right.
and my story is different. However, to miss out on that time, I would never like get over that.
Right.
And I just, and sometimes I do because anyway, missing the point. But like knowing your why and staying really focused on that allows you to live the life and show up to the activities you want to be at.
Yep.
If that's all of them, like, I mean, when I started my business, I was working 8:30 to 10 at night. That was the only time I could start, you know, and then a few hours on the weekends or whatever. But
right.
Because I couldn't be on my phone, I couldn't be on the computer, I couldn't do those things, and because that didn't align with my why. So having a why big enough to make you cry, right? If it's debt, like what is debt? It's so it's not just debt, right? Oh, I want to pay off debt, because we hear that a lot. It's
Yep.
I want to pay off debt so I can leave my job so I can live on less, right?
Yep.
Or maybe I'm going to do this to allow my kids to be in Patan, right? An extra activity. And I'm going to do it in such a way, because not only does the why give you the motivation, it helps you set your boundaries, right?
Yep.
Because, and in knowing you, I've never once heard you say, I'm gonna have so-and-so pick up my daughter from school. You're in the car lane.
Yep.
Even if you're taking me, like yesterday, I think I was on the phone with you and I heard you get in the car and go. Like, yep. I mean, granted, we were getting to the end of our conversation and it was just a chatty conversation, but like, even if a client called you, you say, hey, I have to go, let's talk about this later. Like, it's just a hard stop.
Exactly. Yep.
So I think that why is so powerful because it shapes the business that you create. And when you get into those groups where people are adding clients or getting a $12,000 cleanup or something like that, you kind of start to be like, and this is like the FOMO of getting into bookkeeper groups. why is that not working for me? Why isn't this happening? Why isn't this happening? But it sounds like you were so focused on your why, it didn't matter what anyone else was doing.
Yep.
That I need to get a client.
Yep.
You walked into the coffee shop. How did you find this client that you went into the coffee shop for?
Facebook. So I was posting on my personal page, adding people. So I'd done network marketing previously, like years before. And that was just some of the things that like they had taught us in there, like just go add people and stuff. So I was trying to find business owners on Facebook, searching for groups on Facebook, stuff like that. So I did that, and I was posting in the groups on Facebook several times a day. And yeah, one of the ladies saw my post in one of the groups and sent me a message from Facebook and was like, hey, let's meet up. I need a bookkeeper. I'm ready to file my taxes and my accountant needs reports, and I don't know what that means. So
Gotcha. But you just targeted local people.
correct.
Like, I think one thing we hear sometimes is, well, I don't want my employer to know. I don't want my friends and family to know. Granted, you don't have to do local. I don't, but I will say a lot of my people did find me because, my location was Phoenix. So they found me in Phoenix. They're like,
Right.
Bookkeeper. And so I did all my marketing on Upwork. And if you listen to my Upwork training, right, I flat out tell you, my business was an experiment. I did not want a business.
Right.
Did not. Besides the point, I have one. Now, my husband was like, okay, let's try that. I was sort of fill people in real quick. My business, I say, was started as an experiment because I discovered the Upwork platform through probably watching YouTube, nursing children on the couch, which I was doing a lot. At that point, I had two weirdo tandem nursing, 2 under 2. Like I had a 13-month-old and a newborn. So I think I found it on YouTube, and I was thinking about his desire to start a business in the engineering space. And so I was like, okay, he has a doctorate. I have a master's in accounting. So from a professional standpoint, I have a professional background. I can get on Upwork, create a profile, and see how it works. Like that was all I wanted to do, just see how it works. So I used my background. I created a profile literally from my phone, nursing a baby to sleep, because that was the only time I was on my phone. So like I had this rule, like as long as their eyes were open, I could not be on my phone. But if I was holding them and they were nursing and falling asleep, once their eyes closed, I could pick up my phone. So it was this boundary I put in place to stay present with my kids, but knowing that I would get bored, and I'm like, let's be done nursing. And so I would have, like, I needed something to like keep me present, sitting, physically sitting.
Right. Yeah.
So, but it was after their eyes were closed. So I created a quick profile. So it wasn't good. It wasn't copywriting. I didn't know what to say. Have a master's degree in accounting, but I can do bookkeeping or something really lame. It wasn't, I didn't try real hard at it. I was just, again, experiment.
Yep.
And got some bites, and all of a sudden had people like throwing work at me. And I was like, and so we kept doing it, because then I was like, oh, okay. So if I do this, at nights, on weekends, I can cover this student loan payment that my husband and I agreed to early on in our marriage, because he wanted me to go ahead and do my master's in accounting, which meant we couldn't afford it in our new married life. Like, so he's like, okay, I'm doing my PhD. It's being paid for by the school. You go do this. We'll just make it happen. Well, now we have some loan from that. And I'm like, well, let's just cover it, because I'm now not working. Like all of our bills are covered for that. And that was like, we could do that, but then I was like, okay, do I pay it off in a year? And I could never get real focused on like my end goal. So it made it more confusing, but, and then we completely changed the goal after that, but that's how, anyway, I just wanted to chime in. That's how I found my first client, was just getting out there and.
Yep. Just showing up. I mean, most of my posts were, do you need a bookkeeper? Like seriously, super simple.
Oh, right. So even on Upwork, it was local. So people were like, hey, I need a local Phoenix bookkeeper. And so I would show up. That's how that worked. So
Yeah.
so local is definitely a good way, even if you don't meet them in person. You don't have to. I did meet a couple of people at coffee shops. I took my babies in tow to a couple of meetings as well. BNI, when I joined BNI as trying that, I took my newborn. So.
Yep.
My kids were always with me, and I don't leave my kids with a babysitter. So because my kids are so young, they're either with me or their dad. Now we're around family, so they could be with family too. But in Phoenix, it was with me or with their dad. There were very few exceptions for that. Like I even went over to a friend's house and they wanted me to do their taxes. And they wanted to do it in person. I took my kids, their teens, babysat his wife, and his kids watched my kids while I did their taxes.
That's awesome.
So, but it was just a hard boundary of,
Yeah.
you want me to do this? My kids are coming with me. Like,
Yep.
Anyway, so that's a tangent just on boundaries, on knowing your why. So, and my why is I want to be present with my kids and do this. So if you want, like, it was just a boundary I set in place. So your tablet was whatever you had lying around, which I think is just cover. Insurance, LLC, you didn't have any of that with your first client.
No, I had kind of started the process of my LLC, but I did not have insurance at all. I waited until I got the first client, which was a cleanup job. So I used the money from the cleanup job to finish all those things, LLC, get my insurance for my business, everything, and bought a computer at that point off of Facebook.
Similarly, just to chime in, I didn't have an LLC or anything. This guy contacted me. It's like, I need you to do this. Can you do it? I was like, yes. But I'm not set up yet. Like, I just joined the platform, like, and his lawyer paid and filed my LLC documents
There you go.
for it.
Yep.
Which was awesome. And then after that, I completed the work and went and did insurance and all of those other fun things. But I never put a dime into my business. All of it paid for
It
itself.
paid for itself. Yep.
So I'm just going down the list of like some things that we get asked. Because we do get asked a lot about back end. I had no back end when I got started, right? It was an experiment, got a client, like 3 weeks later. I didn't have a checklist. I didn't have QuickBooks accountant set up yet. Like I had nothing. So I think I sent him an engagement letter. I downloaded from QuickBooks, has like template engagement letters. I think I downloaded that, sent it to him. He had to print it off, sign it, and email it back. Like
that's how mine were done for the longest time. Yep.
Because and one of them just went through Upwork. So one of them just was like, okay, we're going to start a contract. And so I didn't have to have an engagement letter. And then the next one, it was just, oh, I guess I have to have something. By this, my pants and caught myself up. I didn't have like, where am I going to put the files? Where am I storing stuff? I had nothing. No templates, no. Just, yep, I could do this, and just ran with it. And I don't think I was ever really seen as less professional or anything like that. Like, I mean, they fully knew I was a mom just doing some bookkeeping, and I had the skills to do the bookkeeping, or they hoped I had the skills to do the bookkeeping, as potentially your case too, right?
Right. Yeah, exactly.
You say that you could do this. So okay, you got this client. What happened when you got stuck? You said that in the course that you were watching that she put together for you, it didn't make any sense. What did you do? I know you've mentioned you bought a book to teach yourself.
Yeah.
You figured it out, or?
Yeah, I mean, I was in a support group at the time where I could ask some questions and whatnot in there as well. So So I did that, but also, yeah, get stuck. It was kind of like watching the videos in this course, like this is the next step. But like to fully understand the full picture, I bought Bookkeeping with Dummies or for Dummies, whatever it's called. And a couple others because I was trying to go toward like the farming industry. So I bought a book, Bookkeeping for Farmers, like all this different stuff. So I could figure out like, what does a debit mean? What does a credit mean? Like what does an asset, like all these different things, because I didn't understand any of that in the beginning. So yeah, books, research on Facebook, asking questions, like all the different things to try to get past, and be able to hand over financials and stuff.
How did you hand over financials? What did they look like? Did you have a template? Did you just download them out of QuickBooks? Like,
Oh yeah, just download it out of QuickBooks and emailed it. Yep.
how did I send my first financials? This way. And now I think QuickBooks allows you to like, you can pull them up and hit email, like.
Yeah, in QuickBooks.
And, I don't think I had that up, like knew that was an option. My first client, like in QuickBooks Online. So I had back in 2014, I had downloaded QuickBooks Online. I was going to do my personal bookkeeping in it, but it was really outdated. Like it was an awful software at that point in time and just couldn't get it to work. And I was working in like very corporate accounting softwares,
right?
Familiar with desktop and things like that. So when I started my business, I actually started it in desktop because I was under the impression QuickBooks Online was an inferior product. Quickly changed that. I was like, oh, QuickBooks Online is great. I hate, hate having people in two places and still have a desktop client. He was my second client the following month on Upwork. So I still have him and he's a desktop. He's my only desktop client. And I can't get him to move over. So, oh well, is what is. So, yeah. Okay. So then that was 20. How soon did you leave your job? What did the process look like after that?
So it was like 4 months for me because it was the end. I think it was July when I signed my first client. And then, yeah, November the 1st of 2019, I left my job. And so one thing to touch on, you had kind of mentioned earlier, a lot of people get nervous, like what are my employer gonna say, stuff like that. I definitely was kind of nervous about the same thing because I wasn't sure what the rules were and all this stuff. But I had kind of just gotten to the point where it's like, hey, one, I needed the money. So it was like, I'm doing this. If they say something like, hey, I need the money, I got to figure out something and do something. What am I supposed to do? And when they found out, it was just like, oh, we saw you started a business. Congratulations. It wasn't no big deal. So I was like, I was stressing about it for no reason. But yeah, so posting on Facebook, all that. I had gotten to the point in November where, so actually October was going to be my goal date, like, hey, I'm going to leave my job, but I had not quite replaced. I had cleanup jobs and stuff where I was like, okay, I've replaced my income, but I didn't have enough in reoccurring revenue to really feel comfortable and say, hey, I'm going to leave my job. So I was like, okay, I'm going to push it back until November 1st. And then it had really gotten to the point then where it's like, I have no choice. I have to make a decision. It's either leave my job and solely focus on this business, or I've got to quit the business because I just don't have enough hours in the day. And like, I was exhausted from working, trying to work full time, do that. I had a long commute every day and stuff. So I ended up leaving my job because I kept thinking like, okay, if the 40 hours that I'm working plus 4 hours in the car a day, like if I could spend even half that time marketing my business, and I've already grown my business like I have with hardly no time, then I knew I could it wasn't going to be an issue replacing my income or growing my business more. So yeah, November the 1st, 2019, I left my job.
How did they feel about it? Like, how did they respond to you? Was it, they were upset with you? Was it just wishing you luck?
Yeah, they weren't upset. They totally understood. They tried to get me to stay. They tried to get me to stay full time. They even said like, "Hey, part time, and we'll even let you go to this location that's closer to your house," and all this stuff. But it's like, no, I want to. I really want to be able to create my own schedule. And my daughter was 11 at the time, so I missed out on 11 years of everything pretty much, because I couldn't be there because I was working so much. So yeah, but they were super nice about it, super understanding. So
What did that change for you? So you left November 1st. What did that month look like? Were you so overwhelmed? And I don't think you get overwhelmed to the same degree, but like, was it so much work, so much marketing, so much time spent on your business that you didn't commit to spending time with your daughter? Was it, or did you feel like you left and you had like, did you accomplish that month what you set out to do? Like, did you all of a sudden get that extra time?
oh yeah, most definitely. I made sure that I did. So yes, I still did marketing and whatnot, but what I would do was, okay, I'm bringing her to school. While she's at school, I'm either working on client work, doing marketing, whatever, picking her up, taking her to Baton, doing all these different things. So I made that commitment. And I mean, still to this day, if it means I'm staying up till midnight doing work, if I have to, so be it. That's what it is. But the time bringing her to school, all that's my time. So yeah, I made sure that happened since that was my goal.
That's awesome. Okay, so real quick, let's recap the timeline. So you first advertised your business when?
So I think it was probably June before I actually started advertising my business, because I bought the course in the beginning of May. And I really, like I said, started watching it. There's no way I can do it, freaked out, whatever. So my LLC I started the process on not my LLC, but everything else. It was June the 25th. And then I signed a first client like the first week of July. So it was like within a week or so of each other. And then like another client within another week or so. And then, yeah, November the 1st was when I left.
So November 1st, do you mind sharing roughly what your income was at that point? Like gross
Yeah.
income in the business?
Yeah, sure. So I was making $2,500 a month at that point.
So
And when I say like
2,500 roughly.
huh,
So like 3 to 4 months, you were making 2,500.
yeah. And when that was my take home from my other job. So I mean, like, it was not enough to cover taxes. It was nothing, but I was like at that point, and like, I have no choice, but I know this is enough to cover my bills. So like, I have to make a decision at this point.
Let's stop there. So on that, if you read Profit First, like you're supposed to save 50%, you're supposed to do this for taxes, things like that. And I've recently heard a few bookkeepers who are almost stalling their business because of all of those little things. Like they're bringing on expenses, they're doing this other things. You started your business for like nothing. Like you had QuickBooks Online is free. Your laptop is paid for. I'm assuming you just paid cash off of Facebook.
Exactly. Yep.
Probably hadn't had to replace it quite yet.
Yeah, no, not at that point.
So you still had this like hobby wobbling along laptop. I'm sure it's actually working fine at that point, like, right? And
yep.
Yeah. Because
yeah, it was working. It was just slow. And that's what I got aggravated with at one point. But it was like, okay, now I have money, I can buy a new one.
and I was looking last night, you can get a laptop under $200 to start. And I think, and I've gone through, I had a laptop that I bought for video recording, and it still didn't last that long. Like laptops are so funky. Like don't know if I would, I mean, obviously if you have a Mac or something like from college or something like that, it's still a child's laptop that they're not using anymore. I found that you can get laptops at the library, or like, I mean, even if you're like, okay, I'm only gonna work on the weekends, you could physically go to the library,
Yep.
open stuff up, because everything could be online, right? So I'm gonna use Google Drive, I'm gonna use QuickBooks Online and my email. Open everything up, you're not saving anything to the computer, so you're shutting down. Like,
Yep.
it could be that simple, right? But there's also a lot of like grants and workforce opportunities, and I found a ton of options to get a laptop last night because someone asked, and I was like, well, let's get her a laptop. But even like hosting a garage sale, selling an extra TV, because now you're going to be doing business, you don't have time to watch TV. Like,
Exactly.
because I found a refurbished one for $80.
Oh, wow.
It was a Lenovo 14-inch, like enough screen real estate to do bookkeeping on. And I think it had the keypad. So typically 14 inches have the keypad, which I find helpful.
Yes, I agree.
And I mean, you could get a mouse for $10 at Walmart. I like having a mouse, but I used to use a trackpad, but then as I'm doing more, it feels like a mouse is necessary for me. So I mean, $100 and you're in business. You could even maybe borrow your husband's computer if he has one or something like that from a friend. I've seen people post to like smaller community groups, like if you have a church community or something, anyone have an extra laptop lying around, right? Because actually, I'm even in saying that, I have an extra laptop lying around because I had to replace my laptop, and it would get you like, but I replaced it out of preference because it was glitching on a specific like thing I preferred to like have. Oh, no, it's not glitchy. Like, it's all fine, but it has to stay plugged in. So it
Oh, okay.
really quickly. So I can't load up my computer and leave the house and go on like an errand run with my husband while the kids are napping in the car. Like, I can't do that because it has to be plugged in. Like, I can't move my computer around. So
Right.
option of being able to like not have it plugged in sometimes. So it was preference. For a year, I just left it plugged in, right? Like, so it was just preference that I even upgraded. I didn't have to per se. But it did frustrate my husband enough that he's the engineer and he's like, I'm getting you a new computer. I'm like, cool, great. Oh, by the way, your business is paying for it. Great.
Yeah.
Cool. Fine. So with that, there are options there, but even at that point, you didn't have any real reoccurring expenses for your business, right? Just like
No,
insurance.
the insurance, yeah, which is, I mean, it varies state to state, but for me, it's like $42 a month. So, I mean, my one client was paying for that, well, when I first started, one client, but yeah. Other than that, because I use Google Drive if they needed to upload statements. I had everybody print and sign engagement letters. I didn't get any of that stuff. At the cheapest, freest way possible I could do it, I did it.
And then you were it was all hitting, then eventually going to your personal bank and you were paying your bills.
Yep.
No contractors, no nothing. Like,
nope.
And I think that's I just wanted to stop and highlight that because 2,500 in 4 months, reoccurring revenue. Like, I think we can get used to it. Like, okay, we've done it, we're here. But that would have, like, if I had that, like, that's why I started. Like, that's why the experiment stayed, was because that amount of money part-time, because you had 4 clients at 2,500.
No, mine were, I want to say 10.
And how much do you think you're working? Where you work, like, I'm assuming your workload went down. So you went from full-time to now.
Oh yeah.
Time or part-time?
I wasn't working at my job at all. So just working on my business. it wasn't that many hours, honestly, a couple hours a day, probably at the most. Most of what I was doing was marketing my business,
Yeah.
because I was trying to keep building up that revenue.
But if you weren't doing that, you probably would have dropped your daughter off, been done by noon
Yep.
type.
Yep.
And I think that's life changing. Like that's why I'm trying to get that granular, because if you're in my situation where I have kids, that's what I was doing. I was working at night, 8 to 10:30, and I was toast after 10:30. Like it was an emergency if I was staying up till midnight. Like all of a sudden,
Yeah.
hey, surprise, I need my financials in like 2 days. And you're like, stuff today. So,
Yeah.
but I was doing that because I didn't know better. And I felt like I had to at that point. And I mean, it was worth it because now I've trained the client to not put fires on me. And I could still, go to the zoo and, during the day, it looked like I was just a normal stay-at-home mom. And then at night, after the kids were in bed, and so then again, remember I had 2 under 2. And I think at around 18 months, my oldest started sleeping through the night. So she was no longer getting up, but my youngest was getting up at least once. Or then when I had the third, 8:30 to 10:30, that's like that first window before they're like waking up to nurse again. Before so that was my good window. And then I would go to bed. I would nurse the baby and then go to bed. And so then I was on their sleep cycle a little bit. So I wasn't as exhausted as someone else, but could be. So that, that's 5 hours a week. And occasional emails throughout the day was fine. And then I would do some work on the weekends, but at that point I was really part-time and I was doing like 36,000 a year. And it was as if I was barely working because I, did tax season. I did some taxes. And I don't enjoy doing taxes. So I'm not the cheapest tax preparer around always. I mean, I wasn't going to let anyone like be in a bind, but I wasn't advertising the cheapest rates either. So I'd be okay with
Right.
For taxes and things like that. So it was really just, I had a few clients and just working nights. And at that level, I'm paying that student loan bill plus some, which is all I wanted to do. I was like, let's just cover the bill. I'm not gonna even worry about covering the entire amount. Because for me, I didn't have the bandwidth or the time to worry about growing it, to try to all of a sudden like pay it off in a year. That did not feel aligned with where I needed to be.
Right.
So, but I know we have a coach who did that and paid off the amount I have in student loans in 1 year because she hustled and she stayed really focused. I did not have the willpower to do it. It wasn't something I really wanted to do. I was like, I just have this like low threshold. Which I think was okay. Like I really knew my why. No, I left full-time, 50, 60-hour work weeks to be home because I wanted to be a stay-at-home mom, but we were really wrestling with should I not? And I took my daughter to daycare. And okay, it's normal to cry, but like I almost didn't make it to work. Like
Oh,
almost just was like, forget it. Like, and I went back to work for a month and I told them I'm only coming back for a month, replace. And that was kind of miserable. Like, and I told them I don't care. Like I left work to go feed the baby. Like the daycare was right down the street. So I was like, I'm taking my lunch. I'm going, deal with it.
that's awesome.
I was like, I want to be home. So like, you guys can deal with it. It's not really a 9 to 5. Like I'm dropping her off early on her like nursing schedule. And I'm not like, because I didn't want like knowing that I was going to come back home. And that's what I wanted to do. I was going to like, I wasn't going to replace all of her feeds with bottles and stuff like that. I was like, no, like, I'll just go here, sir, and I'll come in. Y'all take lunch. So like, and I think that annoyed them a little bit, but I was like, I'm still putting in more hours than you guys, like, it's fine. Like, but the controller there, like, wanted me to be working a lot at night. And I'm like, no. I'm putting in a full-time day. I don't need to work at night because I love.
Right.
I don't need to do that. So then to turn around and like pretty much replace my income part-time, like, was nice. Now, granted, I did have a whole year off. So I took off, got pregnant again, back to back, like within 4 months. I was like, surprise, we're pregnant. So they were 13 months apart. And I did take that entire year off. But during that entire year, I kept trying to figure out, how do I pay off these student loans? How do I pay off these student loans? It was just like this like thorn in my side of like,
Yeah.
seriously, it was just annoying enough. That when the experiment worked, and it really was just an experiment, because I was like, I'll sell digital prints on Teachers Pay Teachers, because I could pick it up and put it down. And I really wanted a business like that. And in bookkeeping, you can do that too, right? Like,
Yep.
There's no emergencies. It's just, at the beginning of the month, you'll go in full bank statements. I try theoretically by the 6th, if on a slow schedule, but like on the 5th, everything should be available for the most part. You'll get all the statements that you need. Some people will update the bank feed every week. I know I started doing that now, but when I first started, I didn't. I would go update the bank feeds or pull the statements, update the bank feeds, reconcile, and send out financials. Like, it was really that simple. So I wasn't having to spend the entire month focused on the clients. I was actually spending more of the month like, how do I get a client? Or like, how do I do this better? Like, researching the business than I was working in the business. Because a client that has under, on a basic level, a client that has under 100 transactions probably takes less 3 hours. If it's just like 1 to 3 bank accounts, and I'm not including Venmo, PayPal, like your simple business bank, business savings, credit card.
Right.
And they're caught up, right? So once they're caught up, 3 hours, and you can do that in a Saturday morning. So the tangent there, someone was asking me questions this week, and she's working full-time, trying to figure out how to do the business. Like, how does it make sense to work full-time and do this? And she gave me her schedule. She's like, I wake up at this time, I go to bed at this time. And I'm like, you get up really early. Like, because you get up really early, we're gonna use that time wisely. And she got up early to in essence relax, have like some quiet time in the morning, slowly drink her coffee, things like that. And so I was like, unfortunately, I think we're just going to flip this a little bit. It's still gonna be a quiet time, maybe turn on a podcast, maybe something like that. But instead of, we're gonna reverse it. So instead of doing coffee, quiet time, then shower to wake up, you're gonna roll out of bed into the shower and sit down at your computer and do it just in reverse. And I think that small tweak, if she wants to make that happen, is actually enough to hit her revenue goal. And her revenue goal is actually to replace her income, because she's got busy teens. Teens are busy. They're like toddlers, busy.
Yeah.
Like, they got places to be, and school schedules are weird. Like, and her isn't like, she literally goes back to work for 45 minutes. So she picks up one of her kids from school, has to physically drive, drops him off, has to physically drive back into work for 45 minutes before she goes and picks up the other one. And I was like, they won't let you do that from home? No. And I'm like, from an employer's perspective, I'm like, that's insane. That's a waste of time.
Yeah, like, what do you get done in 45 minutes?
And you're not encouraging productivity. And I'm like, there's
no.
I'm like, what do you? And I mean, on a good day, it might be an hour, but what are you doing at that point? Like, I've checked out. Like,
yeah, exactly.
Checking the news. hitting submit, like on something, maybe, like,
Yep.
it's just not efficient. And I wouldn't, as an employer, really want to pay for that hour because I'm only getting like 20 minutes of work out of you.
Right.
Yep. I'd be like, go home, finish it. But that's just a different perspective on work environment. So that's what we did. We just tweaked 1 hour that she was already awake and could focus, right? So if we just switched it just a hair, but yeah, I don't know. But then, like, okay, so we encounter bookkeepers who they want 10,000 of income. What do you say to that? What would be the expectations around that? Can you do 10,000 by yourself? Do you do 10,000 with contractors? Or
Yeah, I mean, I think you probably, it again goes back to what is your why? Why did you start the business? That sort of stuff, because yeah, I mean, ultimately you probably can do 10,000 by yourself. I mean, especially when you're talking cleanup jobs and stuff like that, been there, done that. But it also means, like, do you have that much time to commit? Because it is going to be way more time. Do you want to commit all that time? So like sometimes it definitely makes more sense to hire contractors, hire help to help do those things. And then you have the time. So I mean, and we talk about this all the time, like, you can't get focused on what other people are doing. You have to remember what your goals are, remember what your why is, because 10,000 is great. But like for me, I wanted more time with my kids. So I always have to reevaluate, like, what am I doing and all this stuff. Because yeah, it's nice to get to this income, this goal of 10,000, and I'm just saying 10,000 because that's what you mentioned, but 10,000 a month. But is it taken away from why I originally started my business and stuff? So there's been a few times where I've had to like reevaluate what I'm doing and like, okay, I got to slow things down, or I need to hire help or outsource something or whatever, because I wanted more time with her. I wanted to be able to have travel and all this stuff with her for her competitions. So
because I mean, at 10,000, if you've brought on all of these expenses or fancy software or different things like that really eats into the profit margin. And
most
then
definitely.
you need to work more, you need more contractors. And I know you work with contractors now too. And that allows you to keep saying yes to clients who are coming to you.
Correct.
Right. But you're still having to manage them and make sure the work goes out and things like
exactly.
that.
Yeah.
Your business is still being represented well. So, but we also, I know we have a little time left, but we also know people who have done a bookkeeping business and have set it up in such a way that they go market, they go operate the business, but they don't do the work. And I liken that to, when my husband and I are talking about operating a business, we think about it in the terms of neither of us, neither of him or I, while we could go like do a wrench on a toilet or do some basic like mechanic work, we're not plumbers, right? So we're not going to go like, if we need a plumber, we're probably just going to call a plumber instead of trying to do it ourselves.
Right.
Especially with the little ones. But anyway, like, has he done plumbing for us? Yes. But if we had a plumbing business, he would not be the one going to the job to do the plumbing if there was an emergency. Or if a plumber, one of the techs called out, well, he's not stepping in to go do it. If one of the techs called out sick, we're canceling, like we're either getting another, and this is hypothetical, I don't own a plumbing company, but hypothetically, we are calling in another tech to go do the emergency job, or networking with another plumbing company. Oh, hey, I need some help, right? Because plumbing, that's very common in the industry. And actually as bookkeepers, we call in help all the time. Oh gosh, I need help. And I know you've helped me and vice versa. Like, oh, hey, I'm trying to get this out the door. and this is going on, like, can I get second pair of eyes or something like,
Yep.
and I think that's what I love about having 15 coaches in the group is there's always something to call upon of, oh no, all of a sudden this isn't working and I was trying to get out the door. I set the expectation to be like 5 o'clock today. Like,
Yep.
we have coaches that can jump on immediately to put out those fires, sometimes self-induced fires. Incoming, like sometimes there really is an emergency and it wouldn't be the owner going out unless the owner is a plumber going out to solve it once they get to operator mode. It's the tech does, and you have to, it gives you a lens to say, oh, hey, I just want to operate this bookkeeping business. I don't want to do the bookkeeping. So I'm going to learn how to interview well and find good bookkeepers to help me operate this business well. And so I'm going to find a client and I'm going to outsource the client immediately. But I'm going to have a process in place that I expect to see in a dashboard. You're going to just focus on setting up the business, setting up the operations, and then setting up checks and balances so that the work is getting done well.
Yep.
So there's a lot of ways to operate a business. Just wanted to throw that out there because I'm very much the contrarian bookkeeper of wait, we think that's required, but really challenging that because another person did ask me, I don't have a laptop. And I was like, but you're on Facebook right now. So however you're using Facebook, go find a client, go find a bookkeeper, match the two, and either take it, like have them pay your business and pay the contractor, or like me, I offer an affiliate. Like,
Yeah.
and I offer a nice affiliate because, and it's reoccurring monthly revenue. So I'm like, even if you found people like that, like you're matchmaking them or you're more of a sales position, but you can also own the business and be, here's my bookkeeper I'm going to use to do the work. And here's the client and I'm going to match them. I'm going to keep the profit. And actually, when I was experimenting in my first 6 months, because I didn't have a course, I didn't go seek out any type of course. I did seek out after this. I did start seeking out, okay, how do I do this better? I really never wanted to go back to a monthly job because
Right.
I was doing month-end close before, and the fires are always there. It's always the same fires. The pains are always the same, right? Like if you didn't finish it last month, it's going to bite you this month. Like you're always
Right.
and I really didn't want to go back to that. So I was still trying to figure out, okay, I want to offer this service. And I started my business doing financial statement analysis. So I was putting together cash flow reports, discounted cash flow, water tables for the real estate industry. Like I niched into that like immediately. And I think that's probably what helped my experiment go well. But they still needed bookkeeping. So it was like, yeah, I want you to do this, but I also want you to do bookkeeping. I was like, wait, I don't want to do bookkeeping. So I was doing bookkeeping. I didn't know that those two went together. So there's an idea for anyone listening, but lost my train of thought. Oh, so no, totally lost it. What was I saying there? I talked about the outsourcing it, doing it, and then I went somewhere else. Sorry, guys. Lost that thought. Message me in the comments and remember finish that thought. Totally comment below and I will finish the thought because I lost it. I got distracted by thinking about the financial statement analysis. Oh, I didn't have a course. So here's my thought. So someone contacted me on Upwork. I didn't have the time, but he's like, I've got a cleanup. I've coded everything's done, but something's off. It's not reconciling. Like my bank balance still doesn't match my QuickBooks balance. Because now I've learned QuickBooks Online. I'm like, okay, I gotcha. What's going on? He told me whatever. I quoted 2,800 for this. I don't remember my reasoning. I remember standing in the shower. I just talked to my husband and I was like, okay, I'm going to quote like 1,400. I was standing in the shower and I was like, nope, it's 28. So I went back to my computer after I took the shower, sent the engagement letter for 2,800. Found a bookkeeper on Upwork to do the work. And she did the work. I think I paid her $800 to do the work. And she did it really quick. Like, it wasn't like I underpaid her or anything. Like, because after he accepted, I was able to get in, diagnose it, and say, okay, hey, here's what we're gonna do. This is what needs to be done. She did it, and I made $2,000.
That's awesome.
If I could do that every month, right? Like,
Right.
so I was like, because it was tax season, so I took on some tax work, so I didn't have time to do this little thing, and it was totally worth paying her $800. Like,
Yeah.
and I didn't underpay her really. Like, she did it really quickly. Like, I think she probably made more than $20 an hour doing it. So, and the guy was thrilled. He was so excited. He left a really good review, contacted me later, like, hey, you did so, like, he gave me a referral later. He's like, because you did such a good job on mine, like, you solved my problem. You did.
That's awesome.
Here's another person. I don't think that person went with me. He never contacted me, but you know, he got at me like 2 months later. Like, so just and the contrarian bookkeeper. But I'm always trying to not, and I don't want that to be mistaken with ripping people off. I really did solve his problem and the way he presented what was going on. Like, I forget how I came to that number, but it was like a legit number of like, I wasn't just trying to mix it up, because if it wasn't just that easy, it was going to be really complicated. Like, and I couldn't tell which way it was going to go because I didn't have the knowledge to do a diagnostic review first. Like, I didn't know to go ahead and get the books, diagnose it, and I kind of did, but not under the guise of a diagnostic review. And I was like, I'm pretty sure it's this right here, but if it's not that, it was going to be like a big cleanup. So,
Right.
could I charge them less? But I never felt bad in that moment because he was paying me for my expertise, and I felt good about that. Like, I didn't feel like I ripped him off at all.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's one thing. Like, if you, any mindset books you listen to, or any like business type books, that's definitely one thing they always say. Like, you can't, when you leave your job and you're now a business owner, it can't be like an hourly mentality. It's got to be like, my knowledge, this job is worth this much, not it's going to take me X number of hours. So I mean, that right there is proof, because he couldn't have done it on his own. If he could have, he wouldn't have reached out to you. You know, so it was worth that to him, you know, because he gladly paid it.
And I think part of it was rush. We did it that week, like, we got it done, and that's why I had to get a contractor in on it. Like, but again, boundaries. My boundaries were so clearly set at that point in time that I knew I don't have time for this, and I found someone to do it. And that doesn't always work out. Like, you need to kind of, if you're going to hire contractors, have good ones like surrounding you.
Yep.
Or good people that you can ask. Again, 15 coaches are like a lifesaver. I see them get on last minute calls all the time, and I'm like, praise God that we have 15 coaches that know what they're doing. Like, to get a good answer versus trying to go ask in 5 different bookkeeping groups and
Exactly.
5 different answers that, and you're who's right. And what happens is, oh, okay, I'm going to stop the people who answered. Okay, this one seems like she answers more, and she seems to know what she's doing, but guess what? She answered that question wrong, and it's your question, and you don't, because you got 5 completely different answers. And I actually have seen that derail more bookkeepers from moving forward, because they just get stuck. They get stuck in, I don't know who to ask. And their businesses stay stagnant. Or the other side we've seen, they're asking in 5 different groups, and now they've physically upset our clients because they got it wrong. And
Yep.
now they're like threatened with a lawsuit. And I never want to see a bookkeeper be in that, like that situation. Like it's so avoidable. If you have people that you can ask, and that's why I'm really big on the mentorship that we do have. And I don't know if we talked about that. Do you want to highlight what we're doing or how we could help if you're starting a bookkeeping business?
Yeah, so we do have CV4S where we have the 15 coaches. So we have a coaching program with that. Or you can do like individual one-to-ones. We have that as an option, but we have like our monthly package where you can get in this Facebook group where those 15 coaches are, and they're in there answering questions. And then we also have like group calls weekly. We have 3 right now. We'll be adding a 4th one. And then you get 2 one-to-ones a month, and then any webinars that we do. So you get a lot of hands-on like training and stuff where you can ask questions. And I think we both kind of realized that in our business that was huge to have that hands-on training and be able to ask somebody like, hey, bounce ideas and whatnot off of. And then we're also in the process of creating a course. So if you're brand new, you would have that option as well.
Yeah, so we and our coaches love to teach, and you're
Yep.
right. Like, so I started, I just commented, for 6 months, 8 months, 9 months, I didn't find actual mentorship for like the first year in my business, but it was getting to the point where I was looking for it because I didn't have that coworker next door, is what you'll hear me say, because working in CPA firms, I could ask the other side, the senior accountant, the manager, the CPA, hey, this is funky. Hey, what's the other side of this journal entry? They did some funky stuff here, and this journal entry is a balancing, right? Like, hey, how would you do this? It's, going to impact retained earnings. How do we care for taxes? Can I hit retained earnings? Right. So I'm like super hesitant to hit retained earnings, but just because I'm like, guys. So I knew I needed someone to just ask questions because my boundaries were so clear. I knew I needed very efficient action steps in my business. Like I needed efficient answers, correct answers. I needed like that hotline of, I have a question. It's 10 o'clock at night. I've got to get this done. Who can answer? Can always get an answer at 10 p.m. at night, but sometimes that would save me, or like I could ask it at 10 p.m. at night, knowing I might get an answer first thing in the morning, and I could get it solved before my husband left for work, right? Like,
Right.
or, I'll just work on it during nap time. And that helped me set better expectations for my clients, because I might get an answer at 10 p.m. at night, but I might not. Therefore, I can't guarantee, yeah, you'll have this by 8 a.m. in the morning. Like, who does that? So, but yeah, so coaching businesses for success is a place for bookkeepers and business owners who need help with their bookkeeping, or their bookkeepers starting a business from scratch. So experienced or beginner bookkeepers, we have resources for both. All of the coaches own and operate their bookkeeping businesses, which we felt like was really important because they have a heart to teach others and they're doing it. So QuickBooks, it just came out with sales tax this year. They're using the sales tax feature. They're using QuickBooks payroll. They're using Gusto. They're up to date with what's going on. We have a bookkeeper coach who loves Hector Garcia, and he puts something out, she'll know all about it. Like, so he's a good resource too. And then she's really good at troubleshooting, like what's going on. And then industries are really important. So churches, nonprofits. We do discourage nonprofits typically because they're a lot more involved, but we do have coaches that have experience with them. So if you're just starting out, try to find a cash basis business first. But you get what you get. So whatever you say yes to. We can typically help with auto dealerships, service-based businesses, contractors, real estate, property management companies, builders, short-term rentals, things like that. There's a pretty good gamut of industries that the coaches have experience with, restaurants. What else is out there? It's weird. We'll say if you get a cannabis client, we do recommend dope CFO for that, because there are some regulations with that that you'll want to know and be on the know for to really serve them well. But as far as basic bookkeeping, we can answer, how to code income. But even then, dope CFO would be the recommendation for that. And I think that's the only industry we would really send you out for. Just because it's so regulated, funky regulated between states and federal. So, but outside of that, and even then, QuickBooks is still QuickBooks, right? So,
right.
So it's still a good resource. I will put all of the information below. I'll link the book. Megan mentioned a couple of books in the chat today, so I wrote those down as we went. I'll link those below. So if there's a resource that was mentioned, I'll link them all below. And I will also link to our free resources. We have a free 5-day marketing challenge. And some other free resources and free calls. If you want to join our Facebook group, it is free. There's a free group, and we go live every Thursday where we answer questions. We help you get started. If you need help finding whatever, or marketing doesn't feel like it's working, feel free to jump on and ask us what you got going on, and we'll answer what we can in the time that we have on those Thursday calls. So we guys, feel free to join us there. Link in the comments below. If you have any follow-up questions for us or want us to do a video, let us know. These are going to happen more regularly. So.
Yep.
Okay. Well, you guys have a good weekend. I don't have a tap, Megan. So, yeah, grow your bookkeeping business to a success. If we can help, let us know. Bye.
Yep. Thanks.